What's up, guys? I'm back with another really quick video here. I just played a quick game. Um, it ends before age 4. I'll just say that. No spoilers. Played against this guy, Fiskehops. This is a Super Blitz game. He started out with Aristotle, and I grabbed Engineering Genius. And on the second turn, I'm looking at Hammurabi, or possibly grabbing a couple yellows, and I went with Hammurabi there. And here I'm looking at the future deck here. I missed that turn. He took Aristotle and Warfare. At this point, I'm going to slow down a little bit. The playback speed, just bring that down to right about there. All right. So this is kind of how things started. Pretty normal stuff so far. I ended up getting a lucky Universitas. So with their Engineering Genius, I think that's a great combination to really ramp up the economy there. And he's gone with something that looks, pretty innocent. It's just it's pyramids and Aristotle, and then he spent 2 on warfare, the previous turn before this one, and now he's starting to look a little mean. He got a free warrior out of that event that I did not get because he didn't build the second lab. And here I am with Hammurabi and having only drawn 2 cards. I haven't really seen any boats or any other events, or not much to go on based on like what I've seen so far. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, there's Joan, and I wasn't, at this point, not super suspicious of his demeanor at this point. Just thinking, okay, well, I don't know why he spent 2 on warfare. It could have been defensive, right? And so looking at these 3 leaders, I don't see any territories. Johannes, I already have Universitas. So Joan was, to me, the right pick here because I think Joan is great in 2-player. She can get you a little more extra strength, and the MA is amazing as well. Super glad I picked up Irrigation. I do end up getting into that pretty early. But those last 2 actions, I decided I better take knights because on the previous turn, if you guys noticed, Fiskehops, he played medieval army, and there was only at the time 1 knights out, that first knights, so I grabbed it. And I think that's one reason, just goes to show one reason why it's not usually a good idea to play your tactics early like that. Now, undoubtedly, he had 3 really good cards. Is why he did it. Maybe 2 aggressions, and then the tactic. So that's probably why he did it. But it ended up, I believe, backfiring because I was able to grab those knights, and I'm well prepared for the tactic that he shared. It's one of Hammurabi's weaknesses is that he doesn't typically draw any good tactics, and so by playing a tactic for you, it gives Hammurabi, the Hammurabi player, that much more aid where he's weakest. So here I'm looking at a strength difference of 5, and unfortunately I only have 2 food. So the only way I could have made that work is if I disbanded, say, a mine or a lab or a farm, I suppose, but farm would be a ridiculous idea in this case. So I'm having to basically, I know I'm going to suffer unless I happen to draw another boat. Because if I draw a second boat, I'll be fine. But what I'm facing here is I just have to hope I draw a boat. Now, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have used Hammurabi's ability here because that would have let me draw 1 more card. What I did with these extra 2 actions, not so sure that it was worth it. The last action was urban growth, and I don't know. I do end up using an urban growth to build a temple in a second here, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I have kept that open to draw a third MA or a third card? Because look at what happened. I did not draw the second boat, unfortunately. So here comes a plunder. And it could have been worse. Could have been an enslave. I think that's worse than plunder. It could have been. Would raid be worse? I I don't know. It's about the same, right? Because no, I think the raid's a little worse because you got to spend the civic action to rebuild whatever he destroyed. And then he jumps up to 11. And this at this point, I'm like, obviously the alarm bells are going off. Okay, so I definitely, thinking I definitely need to do something about this. I ended up revolting there into monarchy because I didn't really have anything. I didn't have any way to get to where I was safe. But fortunately, he didn't have another aggression, or he chose not to play it, but he probably didn't have one. What he did there was interesting. He ended the age. He grabbed printing press and Frederick and built the printing press. Now he has finally two science coming in. So he's still got a pretty low science output, but I mean, two is like, kind of the minimum that you want going into age two. And one, he was riding on one for all of age one, which was, quite lean, very, very focused on military. So I do use the urban growth here, and this is where I am glad I picked it up because with after the plunder and the upgrade on the farm that I did, I'm pretty low on resources, and so I'm able to use the urban growth to get one more strength out of this, which actually matters. I'm going to copy the medieval army to go to 5, and then build a temple to go to 6. At which point I'm at a difference of 5, which I can barely cover. So yeah, of course I'm going to copy that. I grabbed engineering genius. I could have finished university, but I decided to delay it by a turn. So here comes the enslave. Enslave would have been great for him because he's Barbarossa. Barbarossa is great at using that, putting that food to good use. He's at 2 food. So he would have been at 4 food and then popped out probably another night. So instead, he has to disband something, and he chooses the lap. So, I mean, I'm looking pretty lean still. I still need that, strength. I'm going to be drawing 3 cards to have a total of 4, but I'm at a difference of 5. And I don't see at this point a really good way to. I guess I could have grabbed swordsman, but no, I didn't have enough science today to actually research it. So I'm gonna have to just hopefully draw a boat here, right? That's the idea. And fortunately, I do. Not only do I draw a boat, but I draw a pretty good tactic for this situation. I've never really appreciated that tactic at all. I've always seen it as the worst tactic in the game. The 2 knights and the infantry, the worst tactic in age 2 anyway. And yet here it is, and I'm really well set up for it, and I'm really glad to have it because he declares a war of technology on me. So at this point, I had basically 2 paths I could have taken. I could have just grabbed coal, researched it, gotten down to where I was at 4 science, and then let him take 4 science. Meanwhile, I'm building my infrastructure. But because I had that tactic, I'm able to do this, which allows me to get to within 1 strength of him. And then he's only taking 1 science, so I'm not super, super bummed about that. And I chose this because he's at 1 science per turn coming in. And if he were to get 4 science, like, that would completely make up for his biggest weakness. He's weak on food as well, and you know, not doing great on resources either. But really, his biggest weakness is his science, and I didn't want to give him that 4 even, even though I had a pretty good amount coming in. Um, so yeah, I went with the defense and grabbed coal for next turn. And it's at this point that I think he realized that those efforts that he put in to try to be the aggressor and attack, at this point have failed. I mean, he did quite a bit of damage, to be sure, but here. I'm about to get into coal, and I have food coming in, and I have we're about even on strength. I think he grabbed Antony because he was thinking he probably was going to need scientific method. I don't know. It's a pretty good setup for Antony, except that he's trying to be aggressive. So it was kind of a confusing choice. But in any case, at this point, he's not really sure what to do, and so he resigns. So that's the game. I just want to show you guys this super aggressive start on Fiskehops' part and what I did to deal with it. And I think the takeaway here is that if you can survive some aggression while you're still building your economy to some degree, that's how you beat aggression. Is you might take a few hits, but if you can build your economy